There I stood, knife poised in my hand, its blade glinting ominously under the cold glare of the chandelier above. The room around me was a cacophony of celebration. Laughter rang like delicate crystal chimes. The heady scent of French perfume mingled with the sweet notes of vanilla cake wafting from the banquet table. Friends, acquaintances, and a few enemies gathered to toast his success, oblivious to the tempest brewing beneath the facade of happiness. I inhaled deeply, forcing a smile as the frigid air slipped through the open balcony doors, carrying whispers of secrets I was on the verge of unveiling. Regret prickled at my heart, a familiar ache fueled by years of unrecognized sacrifice. The silky red tablecloth draped before me felt almost sentient, clinging to emotions I was desperate to tame, but too furious to suppress. Just minutes ago, I wore a mask as luminous as the crystals above me, my laughter spilling effortlessly into the crowd. I was the adoring wife, the supportive partner, the every woman who used to navigate through piles of invoices and endless phone calls, turning mere ideas into lucrative realities. I tolerated late nights and early mornings spent in boardrooms, elbow to elbow with investors, all while forgoing my own dreams. The sacrifices were piled high like the stacks of paper that cluttered his desk. A fleeting memory enveloped me, and I squeezed the knife tighter as the sweet scent of nostalgia twisted into bitterness. I had stood in the cramped kitchen of our first apartment, stirring pots of cheap spaghetti, where late nights were spent dreaming of a life filled with comfort and success. Just a few more weeks, he had promised, and endless bowls of ramen had turned into lavish dinners like tonight's, where the elite reveled in excess, unaware of the tears that had fallen in silent support of his ambition. But the lavishness had grown tarnished, overshadowed by the realization of betrayal. My blood boiled as I replayed the moment I discovered the truth. Everyone had left the room, glancing back at my radiant smile, but casting side eyes at the large framed photograph that hung above our mantel, a picture of our wedding day, beautiful, radiant, and cruelly unchanged. It was as if the universe derided me with echoes of my own naivete. And then, there it was, the exposed reality that tore the thin fabric of my existence. The unmistakable sound of soft laughter spun into my consciousness. I turned to find him, my husband. The charm that had once drawn me in now felt like a noose tightening around my neck. There she was, standing too close, her laugh a silvery tune that sat like lead on my heart. The young woman, impeccably dressed in a gown that seemed tailored from stolen dreams, played with a strand of her hair, gliding it through her fingers like a lover tracing the contours of her perfect, yet ill-gotten life. My skin prickled, a visceral response to the betrayal that flooded over me like ice water. The words came rushing back, words he had uttered so easily, assuming I had been ignorant, that I hadn't pieced together his labyrinthine lies. "I need to focus solely on the business," he had said, his voice smooth as warm honey. "You're my rock, my support." Those deceptively charming phrases reverberated in my head, their sweetness now carved into snarls of bitterness. Suddenly, my world transformed into slow motion. Time was suspended, and the knife seemed heavier in my grip, its purpose redefining itself with every beat of my racing heart. I spotted the delicate gold necklace nestled against her collarbone, his gift to her, a symbol of devotion I had nurtured him to believe he deserved. My breath hitched, and I dared not blink. Her laughter rang in my ears, each note a dagger twisting deeper into the remnants of my heart. I could see the price tag dangling from it, blindingly bright against the backdrop of my anguish. In that moment, the mask fell. I was no longer the devoted wife, hitting my stride at the pivotal moment of his success. I was a woman simmering with rage, a vulnerability eclipsed by the ferocity of betrayal. Shattered glass echoed in my ears, the breaking of trust, the splintering of love. I took a step forward, the knife still held tight, mirroring my newfound resolve. The room's chatter faded into nothingness, as if it were drawn into the confines of a black hole where I alone remained. The glisten of the cutlery, the half-chomped pieces of cake, all reverberated with the tension of the uncovering truths I was about to unleash. Everyone would witness the transformation, witness the unveiling of roles. "Ladies and gentlemen," I finally spoke, my voice calm but underlying fierceness stirring the crowd's attention. "I must thank you all for being here, celebrating my husband's remarkable accomplishment." The sweet tones dripped with sarcasm, igniting whispers filling the air. The laughter floated away, leaving the last echoes to wane into an expectant hush. My gaze shifted slowly to him, meeting his wide, bemused eyes that danced between admiration and that undertone of panic. The flicker of confusion spread across his face as the realization that this wasn't merely a toast settled over him. "What's going on?" he mouthed, desperately trying to regain control. "From the humble beginnings of our life together," I continued, slowly immersing everyone in the narrative they were about to witness. "I sacrificed my own ambitions both willingly and unwillingly. I spent countless nights ensuring you had the foundation to build your empire, as I stood in the shadows, hidden away from recognition, all the while believing in the promises made of love and faith." The atmosphere crackled, tension rising as I laid out the truth, using the knife not as a weapon, but as a symbol of my testament to every moment I had endured. "You think you can go on like this unscathed? Look around," I said, gesturing at the guests. "Those who came to celebrate are idolizing a facade, blind to the darkness that accompanies you." I met his gaze once more, now burning with undeniable strength. "Did you think you could take my hard work, my love, and turn it into a mere trinket for her?" His laughter attempted to drown my words out, a misguided effort to gaslight a woman he had thought he could control, twisting my kindness into a weapon against me. "You sound insane," he declared, every syllable dripping with condescension. But it was the revealed cards that shifted the tension. A forgotten piece concerning the very makeshift empire upon which he thrived now lay buried deep within my brain. Unbeknownst to him, the fundamental controls of our enterprise, the intellectual property that had spiraled from countless brainstorms and endless sleepless nights, had always been in my name, mine to wield in this intricate battle. "You think I'm insane?" I shot back, wrapping my words around the tension that electrified the room. "I've been allowing you to believe this was yours to own while I worked silently in your shadow. Pitifully, you believed you could just reclaim everything without consequence." My heart raced, adrenaline thrumming in my veins. And as I stood there, knife in hand, the weight of it transformed at that moment. No longer just an instrument for slicing through cake, but rather a dagger pointing at deceit, the only victor I needed to become. The crowd swayed imperceptibly as realization began to dawn upon them, shifting the atmosphere from confusion to anticipation, entrapping them in my web of fate. If you want to see how this wife destroys the traitor, subscribe now. The call slipped from my lips, almost divine in its clarity, igniting a flicker of intent deep within me. I had laid the groundwork and drawn the first blood. The real game was only beginning. The tension in the room swirled around me like the steam rising from my cup of coffee as I sat at the kitchen table, staring blankly at the documents spread before me. The rich, bitter aroma mingled with a hint of vanilla from the scented candle flickering in the corner, muted light casting long shadows over the marbled surface. I was trapped in a whirlwind of emotions, anger, confusion, and an insidious doubt that threatened to unravel me from the inside out. Each click of the clock on the wall punctuated the silence, mirroring the rhythmic thump of my heart as I recalled his words echoing in my mind like an unending nightmare. "You're losing it," he had said, his dismissive tone slicing deeper than I cared to admit. Gaslighting was an insidious weapon, and I could feel it seeping into my very core, wrapping me in tendrils of uncertainty, questioning my grasp on reality. These were the moments when the weight of betrayal washed over me, and I felt exposed, raw beneath his scrutinizing gaze. Each time I dared to voice my suspicions, he'd met me with laughter, that hollow sound ringing in my ears. "You really think I would cheat on you? After everything we've built?" His smile had a way of twisting the knife, and for a moment, I almost believed him. I took a deep breath, closing my eyes and exhaling slowly, grounding myself. Beneath the clatter of our daily life, I felt the need to reclaim my power, to take back what was rightfully mine. I needed to be strategic, careful. The stakes had risen exponentially since that fateful night, and any misstep could have severe repercussions. The fragile web of trust that we'd spun over 3 decades had frayed, and the last threads were ready to snap. I had started to gather evidence in secret, poring over old bank statements, the thin paper crumpling slightly in my hands as memories cascaded back. The numbers danced before my eyes. I wasn't just another line in his ledger, built on joint efforts and late-night brainstorming sessions. The foundation of our empire was starting to reveal itself, but it weighed heavy on my conscience. Every blessed moment I spent alongside him now felt murky, tainted by the realization of betrayal coursing through my veins. I leaned in closer, the kitchen dim but warm, illuminated by the soft glow of the candle. The flickering flame cast playful shadows across the marbled surface, creating a tapestry of light and darkness. It reminded me of our tumultuous relationship, beautiful on the outside, yet filled with flaws that pulled at the very seams of my being. Each stack of papers whispered stories of late-night struggles and missed dreams, daughter's tuition fees and future investments infused with hope, now tainted with doubt. Late nights had morphed into bitter discussions of our finances, and I could almost see the tension gathering like a storm cloud above. I recalled his dismissive gestures and how he had brushed off my concerns about fiscal responsibility, assuring me that the growth we were witnessing was merely the beginning. "Trust me, darling," he had often said, wielding his charm like a weapon to blind me to the truth. "I have it all under control." Yet here I was, collecting shattered remnants of trust, frantically piecing them together like an intricate puzzle, desperately seeking the truth behind the facade. With each collected document, the fiery anger I had felt at the party morphed into a relentless determination. I had to expose him, reveal his treachery to the world. It was a daily game of chess. Every seemingly mundane action was now drenched in subtext. He smiled. I responded, the facade of marital bliss resting heavily over both our shoulders. As his laughter echoed through the house, it felt like I was a ghost, drifting from kitchen to living room, observing his every move while he remained blissfully unaware of my silent war. Cautious yet resolute, I enlisted the help of Isabella, my trusted friend from college. With her sharp wit and unyielding loyalty, she was the ally I needed. She was the one person I could let my guard down with, sharing my deepest fears and seeking her perspective on memories that were distorted by treachery. We met in a cozy cafe, the scent of freshly baked croissants mingling with the rich aroma of coffee, enveloping us in a comforting embrace. "We're going to gather everything you can think of. Photos, receipts, texts, anything that helps build your case," she chimed, her enthusiasm igniting a flicker of hope within me. "And trust your instincts. You know more than you think. Don't let him make you doubt yourself." Isabella's voice was like a soothing balm to my battered spirit, revitalizing me with each word. The way she fervently pushed a stack of sweet pastries toward me struck a chord. This was our moment to strategize, a sanctuary fortified by unwavering friendship. The essence of freshly brewed coffee hung in the air, lifting the heaviness that had settled in my chest, awakening the fire I was beginning to rekindle within. As we plotted under the muted chatter of the cafe, I recounted the encounters, the red flags, the stolen glances he shared with that woman, the way his hand lingered just a beat too long over hers, striking intersections of hurt within my heart. I pulled out my phone, navigating through photos, each swipe revealing the imprints of a lie that stretched far beyond our once harmonious lives. "Our anniversary dinner," I said, scrolling back to a sparkling night that now felt haunting. The flash of lights danced in the photo as he leaned close, eyes twinkling with delight, with no notion of the darkness lurking just beneath the surface. In the background, however, a figure loomed, a shadow of her, creeping ever closer. "Is he really that careless?" Isabella asked, leaning in, her brow furrowing slightly. "It's like he wants you to find out. Maybe he underestimated how much I actually know," I replied, my voice steady as I navigated through turbulent waters. "Or perhaps he thinks I'm still that naive woman who will sweep it all under the rug." Ink-stained ledgers of our joint business were captured in my mind as I fought to keep the strategic advantages close to my chest. Sipping my coffee, I felt the warmth spread within me, fueling the fire that arose as I combed through my memories. I have to gather proof. My next step is to collect bank statements. Settling back into the chair, the weight of this clandestine journey pressed against my chest, yet excitement surged through my veins. Inspired by Isabella's words, I meticulously gathered the photos, the text exchanges, those threads woven into a tapestry of deceit waiting to be unraveled. I would be the seamstress stitching together the evidence, finally returning each frayed string of truth where it belonged. Days turned into a methodical routine of collecting artifacts that would ultimately lay bare the skeletons of his lies. Late at night, after he fell asleep, under the dim glow of my desk lamp, I sat surrounded by an accumulation of records. Screenshots of messages, each word a dagger aimed at his heart, bank statements detailing expenditures that tipped into impossibility, and my truth hidden behind the mask I wore for so long. His voice echoed in the corners of my mind, trying to seep into my resolve. "You're imagining things," it taunted me. "You're crazy. You're paranoid." But when that insecurities began to creep back in, I seized it. I focused on the stacks of evidence accumulating before me, a fortress against the storm of his manipulation. I could taste bitterness on my tongue, a reminder that darkness lurks behind nearly every sweet moment we had once shared. Yet with each revelation, with each brick laid in the wall of defiance, an unyielding strength blossomed within me, pushing against the negativity he had crafted. One chilly evening, as I sifted through the last remnants of old correspondence, a flicker caught my attention, a forgotten email buried deep within the archives of our joint business account. Heart racing, I clicked it open, and a sense of clarity washed over me, as if a heavy curtain had been pulled back. It was the evidence that would change everything, the proof that resonated with intent, confirming my suspicions about the murky waters of our business dealings. "There you are," I murmured to the screen, the warmth of triumph igniting a fire that burned away my lingering doubts. I had found the key to my salvation, a weapon I could wield against him when the time came. The tide was beginning to turn, and I was determined to unveil every hidden truth. It became clear that I had crossed the threshold. I was gathering strength, rebuilding my narrative, and finding purpose amid the wreckage of betrayal. The rumble of courage settled in my chest, igniting a war I would wage, and in this silent battle, I would emerge not just as a victim, but as a formidable force, determined to reclaim my story. The clock ticked on, unfurling the narrative that was only just beginning to unfold. I would lay the foundations of my ascent toward empowerment, gathering allies and evidence, preparing to fight against the tide of deceit that threatened to drown me. I knew deeper truths awaited me beyond this threshold, deeper connections in a world that had once seemed impossibly dark. With every piece of evidence collected, I felt hope arise like the dawn, vowing never to let the shadows consume me again. The banquet hall was adorned like a hushed dream, an opulent tapestry woven with gold and crimson, opulent chandeliers flickering like stars in a midnight sky. The air was rich with the scents of rosemary and thyme dancing from the meticulously crafted hors d'oeuvres laid carefully on silver trays. Laughter floated through the room, a light-hearted symphony composed of clinking glasses and spirited conversations, all masked beneath the sumptuous warmth of a well-placed burgundy carpet. My heart raced as I stood backstage, hidden from the glimmering surface of the night, a soft hum of anticipation thrumming in the air around me. It was a birthday party for my husband, an opulent event to mark another year of his duplicitous existence, an evening where he was poised to take the throne atop his pedestal, surrounded by our friends and colleagues, those obliviously indulging, blissfully ignorant of the storm set to crash upon their revelry. I leaned against the cold, dark wall, feeling the coarse texture of its facade beneath my fingertips, grounding me amidst the whirlwind of emotions swirling within. The crisp sound of laughter split the air, merging with the soft tap of heels against polished marble. It felt surreal, a close-knit community gathered to celebrate an empire built on deceit. I swallowed hard, the thick bile of anticipation trapped in my throat. The rehearsal of my speech ran through my mind like a taut musical score, rising and falling with each breath I took. The moment would be spectacular. I could feel it in my bones and in the way my pulse quickened. This was a revelation they would not forget. As I peered through the gathering throng, I caught a glimpse of him, his beaming smile dazzling under the phosphorescent glow of the lights, leaning towards that woman, his accomplice, the storm chaser who danced in his shadow. He looked so confident, the charade well-rehearsed and polished like his tailored suit, golden cufflinks glinting in the ambiance of flattery. The gall of it cut sharper than any knife I had wielded before, reminding me of everything I had sacrificed for this impostor. But I was on a precipice, standing at the edge of a chasm he had unknowingly carved out through arrogance and infidelity. I took a deep breath, inhaling the sweet aroma of the decadent feast that would soon blur behind the obscuring veil of truth, readying my resolve for the upcoming act. The resounding clinks of spoons against fine china receded as the party began to gather toward the center of the room. The din quieted for a moment, and a nod from our mutual friend Marcus signaled to me that it was time. My heart thrummed like the rapid beat of a drum as I stepped into the luminous glow of the stage, the microphone cool and foreign in my hands. Ladies and gentlemen, my voice sliced through the buzz, reverberating off the walls and rolling through the stunned silence like thunder. The room froze, and I could taste the dainty sweetness of hope mingled with fear as I observed their faces transform from bewilderment to curiosity. Thank you all so deeply for joining us tonight to celebrate my husband's birthday, a testament to the life we built together over 30 incredible years. As I spoke, my acute senses absorbed the textures of their collective murmurings, the silk of the dresses adorned with golden embroidery, the crisp linens against which the candles flickered, casting ghostly shadows against the walls. My grip on the microphone tightened, converting any wavering into fortitude. This was my moment. However, I continued, feeling the murmur within the audience swell like a tide, I have a few truths I need to reveal. Truths I have guarded silently in the shadows of our life together, while he has indulged in betrayal. I could see him swallow hard, the color draining from his face as he realized the potent poison of my words. I've spent decades dismantling my own aspirations to build his dream, to become the woman seen only as a supportive spouse, planting seeds of ambition in barren soil. Yet those seeds flourished in ways he never anticipated. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Curiosity mingled with alarm, an intoxicating mix that fueled my momentum. I was no longer just a player in their game. I was the architect of my own liberation. Then it came, a moment threaded with exquisite tension, as I produced the evidence from beneath the tasteful garment cascading around my body. With swift precision, I unveiled stacks of papers pulled from their hiding places, evidence meticulously ordered and poised to tumble like dominoes. Ladies and gentlemen, I declared. The sound of paper rustling filled the air. What you are witnessing here is the foundation of our legacy. I raised the first document, the cool, familiar weight resting like a promise in my hands, is proof that the very intellectual property of the company we built isn't just his, it belongs to me. The gasps turned into hushed whispers, weaving a tapestry of disbelief as I unveiled bank statements detailing unnecessary expenditures, texts confirming lies, receipts of secret purchases that painted a portrait of deceit. The murmur of fragile realizations swept through the audience like a tidal wave crashing against the shore. "What's going on?" he spat, his voice trembling, barely cloaked under the veneer of control he tried to maintain. Yet I could see it, the cracks forming within his facade, the color draining from his complexion like a spilling out of ink. Holding a photo aloft, I pointed directly to it, the image of a document that revealed the insidious truth, signing my authority over our creation. Tell me, how does it feel to know that while you flaunted your successes, I was the one holding the hammer to your fate? The audience drew in unison, resembling a tightly coiled spring, ready to burst back at the shocking knowledge unfurling before them. The echoes of the past thudded against the walls as laughter turned into unsettled murmurs. I could see the glimmers of recognition in their eyes, the gentle jab of realization that they had been involved in a masquerade far more sinister than we had ever anticipated. "What are you even talking about?" he gasped, voice dipping into incredulity, trying to regain control, yet losing the grip on his carefully constructed reality. "This was never just your empire," I shot back, feeling fueled by his desperation. "The ring you put on her finger, the nights spent shamelessly shackled in betrayal, those too bear the weight of my silent sacrifices. I was there for every sleepless night and every sacrifice. I poured my heart into this creation as he manipulated those around us." Gaslighting, I realized, was not meant to whisper into my soul, but rather to break apart their fragile realities. As I continued to unveil the depths of my resolve, buoyed by a newfound sense of empowerment, I leaned into the energy of the room. I could practically see the audience reacting, their brows furrowing in utter disbelief, and a faint shift of loyalties illustrated across their faces. A whispered exchange between colleagues, co-conspirators who once reveled in the glory of his success, now grappling with the guilt festering beneath the surface, like enhanced sourness in the air. Navigating through this moment felt like a dance, the tempo intensifying as I drew everyone deeper into my narrative. The scent of fear mingled with a heady aroma of disbelief, edging ever closer to the truth. He huffed, attempting to shake himself loose from the curling net of shame, a veneer of anger rising over his features. but the fervor of his rage melted into vulnerability. "You're lying. Try and twist this however you want. It's my name on the company." But isn't it what we always said? Ideas are worth more than signatures on paper, my dear. And I was the one birthing every thought within that boardroom. Let's see how well your empire stands once the truth is exposed, shall we? I could taste the chill of honesty on my lips, as palpable tension thickened the air. The moment hung as if time had stopped, allowing each person, the friends, the colleagues, to absorb the burgeoning storm now unleashed. It was glorious. Hued from despairing embers, I had risen like a phoenix unyielding. I beamed one last time beneath the penetrating glare of the audience as they shifted their gaze toward him. Their reaction unfolded in real time, confusion seeping into a dawning realization and spiraled into a hushed horror. "Would you have waited this long?" I called out, breaking the escalating stillness as each whisper morphed into anticipatory chatter. His face paled, recognition fading from bravado to cruel trepidation, and I knew my path was set and his game was over. I had just ignited the match to unravel a life shaped on schemes. I would reclaim the power of my story, weaving threads back together, and the applause of liberation would soon drown out the embers of deception smoldering within the walls of our history. Time dripped slowly under the weight of those 6 months following the revelatory night that had altered everything I once believed. It was as if the world had exhaled. The chaos of betrayal lay behind me, and I could finally breathe anew. I had finally shed the layers of my old self, each one falling away as I carved a path toward my rebirth, the dawn illuminating new horizons I had yet to explore. In stark contrast, my husband and his mistress found themselves deep within shadows they had crafted for themselves. Their lives, once marked by the glint of wealth and privilege, had assumed a darker shade, like faded photographs left too long in the sun. I could picture the once stately home, its bright exterior dulled by the erosion of deceit, hollow echoes replacing laughter, only silence remaining where there had once been joy. The headlines, cool yet pungent with the scent of justice, carried tales of their downfall, each word a testament to the web of lies they had woven. While I blossomed, seemingly nourished by the sweet nectar of vindication, they languished in the bitterness of insignificance. My husband caught in a legal quagmire, drowning beneath the weight of lawsuits from former partners, the traitors he had cheated in his haste to play king of a crumbling castle. "A jagged path to ruin, indeed," I murmured, as the fragrant steam of freshly brewed coffee curled enticingly in the air around me. It mingled with the luscious hues of the early sun filtering through my kitchen window, warmth wrapping around me like a silky shawl. The aroma grounded me as I took a steadying sip, every drop a sweet reminder of the path I had forged. In his absence, my life transformed into a gleaming tapestry woven from ambition, grace, and my long-neglected dreams. Days were imbued with vitality, with laughter spilling from my lips as I explored the avenues of newfound wealth. I seized the reins of the intellectual property that had once been the lifeblood of our joint enterprise, reorganized it, and rebuilt it into something beautiful, bold, untouched by the filth of deception. I hired a dedicated team of professionals, driven yet compassionate, who valued my vision and breathed it into life once more. Their camaraderie sang around me, clad in the fragrant warmth of coffee breaks and spirited brainstorming sessions. In bustling cafes, the clinking of cups and swirling conversations painted vibrant scenes of my renewal. It felt breathtaking, the world revolving around the axis of possibility rather than despair. During this period of blooming prosperity, I was approached by women once hidden in the shadows of their circumstances. They'd seek solace in my story, a soft ember igniting their journeys toward empowerment. I began speaking at events, sharing my story, and spreading seeds of resilience, nurturing dreams that had lain dormant. The scent of fresh ink filled the air as I drafted my first book, a poignant tale woven from the threads of my experience, hoping to inspire those standing in the same shadows I had once found myself engulfed in. The stark contrast of my rise became an echoing reminder of the decay surrounding my ex-husband. I'd occasionally read snippets of him, dulled and hollowed, haunting the tabloids like a wisp of smoke destined to settle among broken dreams. His foundation had crumbled, bank accounts drained, leaving him scrambling like an animal cornered, clawing at the remnants of his pride while the world looked on, eyes gleaming with judgment. I chuckled softly at the thought of him, the elegant silver cufflinks given by his father now resting buried beneath a mountain of unpaid bills, the tragedies written in invisible ink. His once gilded life had transformed into a mundane existence, trading his tailored suits for worn jeans, the odor of despair clinging to him like an unwelcome shadow. A faded reflection of himself, he faced each day, undulating, trembling under the weight of his choices. And then the mistress, what once felt tormented, now aptly reflects the caricatures of desperation. When the money dwindled as quickly as it had come, she vanished into the night, as if she had only existed in his fantasies. Her scent of expensive perfume lingered in his wake, blending with the staleness of defeat now permeating the air. Their fleeting connection disintegrated like the fragile promises he'd whispered to her, in smoky bars under shimmering city lights, extinguished by the harsh reality of financial ruin. As reality crashed down on him in delightful waves, I caught whispers of his new life. An embittered figure working long nights at a small printing company, beneath fluorescent lights that flickered with the vexing uncertainty of his newfound fate. I could imagine the rhythmic sound of machinery gnashing, the air thick with the scent of old ink, betrayal unfurling anew with each page printed, reminding him of the life he'd discarded for a flicker of pleasure. And there I stood, flourishing in a garden built from the ruins of heartache. Confidence draped around me like soft satin, my body adorned in dresses that danced with delight against my skin, rich fabrics and colors that complemented my new vivacity. Friends and colleagues spoke in hushed tones, marveling at my metamorphosis. It felt as though the universe had wrapped its arms around me, cradling me with newfound grace. The laughter in my life blossomed, flipping darkness into layers of comedic relief and joy. But I knew my journey wasn't just about revenge, though every triumph felt like an enchantment against the malignancy of betrayal. It symbolized my growth, an awakening that enveloped me, igniting the flame within my heart. With every step I took, I knew my story resonated with those caught in the murky waters of doubt and self-worth. I recalled vividly our final moments. The venomous vitriol splattered across the room, yet instead of bitterness, I now craved forgiveness. It was necessary, a tributary feeding into the ocean of freedom I sought. Forgiveness wasn't for him, it was for me. I inhaled deeply, letting go of remnants of anger like leaves swept away by autumn winds, drifting toward renewal. My thoughts drifted to the future, tantalizing and bright. Each idea I nurtured sprouted wings, reaching toward the vast unknown. Books to write, new ventures to embrace, a life yet unlived waiting to unfold. The culmination of self-discovery was beckoning, and I longed to share this journey of rebirth with others needing strength, longing for liberation just as I had once sought. The emotional landscape shifted once more, forging a powerful connection to those who found solace in my tale. This journey was about potential, about the paths we carve from the ashes of our past, and vibrant echoes resonated through every conversation. "Wait until you hear about the next chapter in my life," I said one evening as laughter spilled around a dinner table filled with friends. I hesitated, then browsed the thin pages of possibility unfurling before me. It involves the husband who tried to fake his own death, although it didn't go as planned. I'll need your support for that one. Intrigued chuckles echoed in return, but it was so much more profound. It was a thread of connection, of shared journeys toward embodying the strength we all harbored beneath our exteriors. As the gentle candles flickered above, the warmth of laughter wrapped around us, a sweet fragrance of hope, possibilities stretching toward the horizon, beckoning us forth like siren calls at dawn. My rebirth was but the beginning. Countless stories awaited beyond, ripe and ready for sharing in this enchanting tapestry of resilience through darkness. I raised my glass, a sparkling beacon in the night, and offered a toast, an expression of gratitude for this life overflowing with beauty, passion, and the exhilarating promise of every new chapter yet to unfold.